Welcome to Backstage with Becca B, with special guest, Keri René Fuller. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Backstage with Becca B. On this episode, today's guest made her Broadway debut as an understudy and ensemble member in Waitress in 2018, and most recently could be seen belting out Memory as Grizabella on the national tour of Cats. She also recently just got cast as a swing in Jagged Little Pill on Broadway before shutdown. Please welcome Keri René Fuller.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. You know, living our best lives here in New York.
Yeah, the quarantine life.
Yes, it is a life, let me tell you.
It's insane. How is New York? Because I know it was at the beginning, it was a little rough, but I've heard it's gotten a lot better.
I was so lucky and so blessed that I didn't, other than like the population of New Yorkers being just less naturally, because we're all being very, trying to be very smart, but like I've not really noticed much of a difference, to be completely honest with you. Like obviously some of my favorite restaurants were closed or like just temporarily closed, but I feel badly saying it, but I mean I feel like New York still retained a lot of its New York magic for me personally, but I also am so blessed and have not had to deal with like the same tragedy that people have. So
Yeah, but it's a little it this time is kind of a downer for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
We're all doing the best we can, I guess. But
really,
I'm glad
all we can do, right?
Yeah. But I'm glad you could join to talk about your theater career with me.
Oh my goodness, it's such a pleasure. I'm so sorry about last week. Goodness.
All good.
But here we are, yay.
Yeah.
Finally.
And if my internet freezes a little, let me know, because I don't know what's going on with my internet today, but
it is technology has been overloaded lately, I feel.
Yep. It's crazy. And we rely on it so much.
Absolutely we do.
Yes. So, first of all, getting right into questions. First of all, have you always known that you wanted to be a theater performer? And when was the first time you realized that it was something you could do with your life?
Yeah, I actually have not always wanted to be a theater performer. I thought for my life, I thought that I was just going to be a vocalist. I've been singing my entire life. Like just randomly, my parents put me in voice lessons as a young girl. And I thought that I was just going to be like a recording artist or whatever. And still working on that, but
Yeah.
I had never, theater did not cross my mind until in middle school. Like I don't even remember what grade I was in, honestly, Becca. But my mom brought me a audition notice for a community theater production of Annie Jr.
Oh.
And I auditioned. I was like, sure, why not? Like it'll be fun. Like I'll sing. And you know how like when you audition, you normally choose a song to audition with that's like appropriate for the show.
Yeah.
I go in with a CD track of What a Feeling from Flashdance. What a feeling,
I love that so much.
Not at all appropriate for Annie, but I got cast amazingly so. And I was in the ensemble and I understudied Annie, and I was so serious about this whole understudy gig, so serious about it. I learned everything backwards and forwards, and that's really great that I did, because she actually ended up getting strep throat, and I went on for like 3 performances.
Wait,
and
how old were you at the time?
I was in middle school. I was a youngin'.
So you learned about understudying early on.
Yeah, I mean, listen, a lot of community theaters that I grew up working at, they didn't really do understudies. And let me tell you, the Lord was manifesting something when he had that director be like, you know what, we should probably cast an understudy just in case. You never know. Because it really paid off. It really paid off. And that's when I knew. I was like, oh, this is passion. This is what it feels like. This is what love feels like.
Yes. And Annie's such a great show to introduce you to theater.
It really was.
It's just like
you got some power ballads. You've got a little child carrying a show. It's just like Oliver.
It's amazing. What's your favorite Annie song?
Oh my gosh, maybe for sure. Not Tomorrow. Maybe. Maybe was like, I was like, oh, this is acting. I get to act.
Yes. I think, that show got me into loving theater.
Yes.
So, I can relate. And then
here's to Annie Jr. at that.
I don't have a coffee cup, but I did have one like 10 minutes ago. But we'll pretend. And do you remember what the first show you ever saw was? Like, as an audience member?
First professional show was Wicked on tour throughout.
Oh.
Yeah, I grew up in Oklahoma, and we have a great touring house, which we actually toured through when I was on the road with Cats, which was really special to be back there. But I'm sure we'll cover that later. It was Wicked, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to play Elphaba. Nowadays, don't feel so much that same way.
Really?
Yeah, strangely enough, she's not a bucket list. I so like. That role is so challenging. I respect every single woman that has ever played it. I just am not sure that I would like to do that before I die. You know? I feel like there are other roles, and something I never thought I would say, Becca. Something I never thought that I would say.
Yeah. I mean, that's shocking, but at the same time, like, I get it. I totally get it. But I still have to ask, who did you see on the tour?
I honestly do not know.
You're like, well, let me see if I find my playbill anywhere.
I really do not know. I'll have to ask. I'm sure my mom has that playbill somewhere, so I'll have to look. Because I would be interested as well to know. Yeah.
Like, who did I first see? What year was it?
Oh my gosh. I was in middle school. I was in 8th grade, I think. So, oh my gosh, that was, if I graduated high school and, oh my gosh, it was like 2007 or 8. Something, 6, 7, 8. Math is not my strong suit.
Yeah, math isn't my strong thing either.
So, yeah, it was sometime around there.
Hey, but Wicked's a good first professional show.
I know, right? It was it was magical. It was magical. And I was like, this is the caliber at which I wish to perform. Yeah. And everything that I've done since then, since seeing that show, it's always been a common goal of like, I want to be fantastic at my craft, no matter what, where I'm working, on Broadway, off Broadway, regionally, anywhere, truly.
And you mentioned Oklahoma and growing up in Oklahoma.
Yes.
And I might be wrong because I've never lived there. My sisters go to school at OU, but
love.
My sisters are at school there, but I don't think Oklahoma is particularly known for theater.
No, we're not. Well, because the thing is that we have like the theater community and I can only speak about the theater community when I was there. It was small but mighty. We had a handful of really great community theaters, a couple regional theaters, and then a lot of collegiate work. And I mean, it's nowhere like it's nowhere like New York, obviously. It's nowhere like Chicago, but I mean, it's for Oklahoma City, for it being a small metro, it's actually really great. I'm really proud of all of the theaters there and all the work they're doing, because they're in Oklahoma, the arts are not prioritized that much because there's football.
Yes, football is a big thing down in the South. Yes. So for anyone who's living in a town or a city where theater isn't where theater isn't a big thing, like in Oklahoma,
right?
How would you suggest that they get involved in theater in their city if they want to?
Honestly, work at any theater you can. As long as you feel safe working there, work there. And honestly, do shows that are, free to produce yourself. Like when I was in high school, my friend and I co-directed A Winter's Tale. It's a
Oh,
Shakespearean production, and we just did it in our high school. Like extracurricularly, it was not associated with school, and we just got like a handful of our friends to be the actors, and we invited people. We didn't even sell tickets, but you can always do things like that. And then there's obviously any community theaters that are around. I obviously recommend to take classes there or do shows. Even if if it's like, if it's not even the most amazing theatrical experience ever, it's still working on something. You know
yeah,
what I
I'm
mean?
getting the experience.
Yeah, I feel very strongly that like any creative outlet that you can have or that is available to you, that you should take advantage of, and you should use it to your positive. What am I saying? You should use it to your, what word I'm thinking of? Use it to your
Yeah,
advantage.
yeah.
Advantage. Use it to your advantage. Wow. Wow.
And you
I
can still
really
put
need.
it on your resume.
Yeah, absolutely. It's experience.
Yeah. And it's still impressive, and it's impressive when you're a self-starter too,
Yeah,
especially.
exactly. Exactly. And it's very fulfilling to direct something and, choreograph something yourself.
Oh,
It stretches you in a way that you don't really get when you are solely a performer in the production.
yeah. It's something a lot of performers probably don't get the experience
Right.
of if they have strong theater programs in their high school
Agreed.
that
Agreed.
early.
Hmm.
So then you went to college for theater.
Yes. Yes, I did.
And how was your experience in college in majoring in theater?
I had an amazing 4 years. I went to Baldwin Wallace in Berea, Ohio, and it was just a phenomenal 4 years. It was a hard 4 years. I went through a lot of heartbreak in those 4 years, not like romantic heartbreak, but just heartbreak, like learning about who I am as Keri on my own, independent, learning who I am as a performer, learning who I am as an independent person. When you move away from home, college is hard for anyone, no
Yeah.
matter how close you are to the proximity of your home or far away. It's hard for everyone to adjust, I feel. And so moving across the country was also hard because, I didn't get to go home for holidays all the time. And, you really have to learn to stand on your own 2 feet. Plus, you're being stretched in a way that you've never been stretched before academically. Like I was taking liberal arts courses, but I was also in a conservatory style training. So I would be taking these super advanced classes, just because that's the standard at which they set
Yeah.
the bar for their students. I failed a couple classes, which I had never done before. Straight A student growing up. I had failed. That was really hard for me. Failed a couple classes. Learned how many classes were too many to take in one semester. Doing shows every single semester, doing shows every single summer. Like there was never downtime, ever, ever, ever. And so I learned a lot about my work ethic, about my productivity, about my tendency to procrastinate, put things off. But it was an amazing 4 years. I learned so much from my peers, my teachers, my experiences, everything college is supposed to be.
And theater programs, from what I've heard, the most people say that theater programs are highly competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really feel that. I really did feel like we supported each other. There was obviously natural competition, but that's also a maturity thing. Like we're in college and we think that, oh, this girl is the same type as me, so we can't be friends because we'll be in competition for roles with each other. That'll put so much stress on our relationship. And now here I am in New York City with like a population of some of the most talented humans on the face of the
Yeah.
earth. I don't feel that sense of competition. I feel like it's there. It's obviously there, but I don't prescribe to it. Um, so it's very different. I thought that out of college, moving here, that all of the negative, immature things that I experienced in college would transfer over. But really, we're all just trying to do work. We're all
Yeah.
just trying to work. And when you sit back and you realize, hey, girl that's going in for Alphaba, same as me, we're just two girls who want to book a role. We just want to, you have a lot more in common than you think you do. So
Yes.
while there is competition present, it does not affect me in the same way that it used to.
And kind of going off that, do you have advice before we get into your theater post college? Do you have advice for people who are starting to audition for shows in big cities like New York, maybe LA? I don't know.
It is the most cliche. Like, you're gonna laugh because it's the most cliche thing on the face of the planet, but it is the most useful information I have learned in my 27 years of life. And it's kind of like it's a handful of things. So can I like say 3 things?
Yeah, for sure.
Do not compare yourself to other people. It doesn't work. It's not helpful. It just steals your joy. And you don't do the work the caliber of work that you're able to do, that you have this huge potential for creativity. And when you're spending so many brainwaves comparing yourself to other people, it takes away from what you can accomplish. And also it's just toxic for the mind and heart and friendships. And yeah. Secondly, success in your career is not linear. So it kind of tags on to comparison of like, I did not book Broadway right out of college. Like some of my other college, classmates, I didn't book right away, but I've been successful in my years here. And it's also like, what do you define as success? Like when you are constantly like, okay, I'm 23 years old. Here's another Broadway performer who's also 23 years old. So like, why am I not where she is? Or why am I not where he is in his career? Success is not linear. I always use Alan Rickman as an example because I read that like he didn't really hit his successful stint until his like early to mid 40s. And then he never stopped working. So like, define what your success is and chase that. Don't chase other people's careers. Because just because somebody's light is super bright at this moment in time, does not make your light any less radiant or any more dim. You're just as bright. It's just not your time yet. And that's okay. There are other things you can do. Pick up an instrument, write a song, paint something, just anything. Anything.
That's fantastic advice, and especially the not compare yourself to others, because in any career path you compare yourself to others. It's like a natural instinct to have.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. Even though I say this, I still do it every now and then. I still am hypocritical at times, but there's only one thing that you can do to be successful, and that is always continue your training and always be authentic. Those are literally the only things you have in your control. Nothing else.
And I love that
those things.
I love that you brought Alan Rickman into that because he was like God here. I miss him. I miss him. Me too. And then you mentioned not getting Broadway the second you got out of college, but you did a lot of regional shows around. You did a lot of like big name regional shows, which is impressive, and played a lot of good roles. So what was your favorite role in regional show to be in?
Regionally, I have to say, it was actually a show that I did in my junior year of college. And it was Murder Ballad. I played Sara in Murder Ballad. And not only is the show just like super sexy, super gritty and raw, all four actors, it's only 4 actors, and they were on stage the entire time. And the music is super fun. It's entirely sung through, no intermission. And the story is unreal. If you've not listened to it, go on Spotify. You can listen to the entire thing. And we did it. It was my first major immersive theater experience. So it was in a big black box in downtown Cleveland. And we had obviously perimeter seating, and then we had the band. And then throughout the middle, we had like the bar, which was a prop, a set piece that we would climb on top of. And then we would have tables spattered throughout the middle stage portion that people would sit at, audience members would sit at. And we were like, you can't sit in this chair because we use that as a prop. And then we would jump on tables, and we would be so close to these audience members and pouring them drinks and dancing on a pool table. And like, it was just such a was a blank slate. And I had never really experienced that before. It was my true first experimental theater project. So that was probably my favorite regional production that I got to do. Lizzie Borden, freshman year of college, was also pretty unreal as well. Like, I'm still good friends with some of those writers too, and seeing how that has progressed and all of the different carnations of that show it's so special. It's such a special show. I've been really lucky in the shows that I've gotten to do. There's not really a show that I look back on and I was like, ugh, why did I do that? You know how some people have those experiences? I'm very lucky. I didn't have, maybe Seussical. I love the show. I think it's a beautiful show, but yeah, maybe Seussical for me is the only like one that I was like, I probably wouldn't do that again.
Well, going off doing a show that you've done regionally again, if you could pick one of the shows that you've done regionally, one or two of the shows that you've done regionally to do again, maybe in like a Broadway setting, what shows do you think it would be?
Murder Ballad for sure. For sure. That show is very special to me.
Oh, I would love to see that.
It would be so fun. Hey, everyone, please mount a revival of Murder Ballad off Broadway.
Manifesting that one. Yes, let's make it happen. And then in 2018, you got Waitress.
Good.
And that was your Broadway debut, yeah?
Yes, it was unreal.
So, what was your audition experience for that like? And what was your reaction when you heard that you were going to be part of that show?
What's really funny about that, Becca, is that I had auditioned for that show since 2014. I had been auditioning for that show since 2014. I was auditioning for the ART production while I was still in school. And I went in for that show, I kid you not, about 8 or 9 times before booking it.
So they remembered you.
8 or 9 times.
Yeah.
And I remember the last time that my final time of auditioning for that show was for the tour in 2017. And I went, and that was the same year that I did Hunchback and A Midsummer Night's Dream in Idaho. So I auditioned for that in May. I went about my year, did my life. And at the beginning of 2018, my agent calls me and he's like, do you want to be on Broadway? And I was like, obviously, what's happening? He's like, Waitress called and they need a vacation cover beginning like in 3-4 weeks. I was like, this is how? I was like, do I need to audition? Like, what, do I need to go back in? They're like, no, you're good. You just signed the contract. And I was like, that's how it happened.
Wow. So it was kind of random. It was like you weren't expecting it.
It was a year later. I was not expecting to ever be in that show, to be quite real with you. After going in 9 times and not booking it, I was like, well, if I've not booked it now, I'm never going to book it.
Yeah.
I was in it for 6 months.
I was going to say, did you stay longer than planned, or?
I did. I was initially only going to cover 1 track, or 1 vacation rather. And then while I was there, a leave of absence of a castmate got approved. And so they were like, do you just want to come back? You already know the ensemble stuff. It's just a different track in the ensemble. And I was like, absolutely. Yeah. I was like, I still understudy Jenna. And they're like, yeah. Never went on as Jenna, but it was nice to rehearse as Jenna. It was nice to learn the material.
How is the rehearsal process like in learning an iconic role like Jenna?
It was so hard. It was so hard. I never actually got there. Like in my weeks and months of rehearsal, I never actually got there because she is on stage 98% of the time.
Yeah. She
works with so many props, and also working with props in a rehearsal studio. Sorry, that was my dog. Working with props in a rehearsal studio versus working with props on stage and not actually having a full cast to work with and do scenes with. It's kind of like shell shock when you go on stage and you have your cast. So the amount of respect that I have for swings in any production, not just a Broadway production, but in any production where they're learning these shows with a stage manager, a music, an assistant music director, and like just random props that they find, like I don't know how they do it. It's mad respect. It's unreal what their brains can do, what they are capable of.
Yeah. Yep. That's why I always
learning 3 tracks. Like, are you kidding me?
I always say that understudies and swings are like the MVPs of shows.
They are. They really are.
Yeah. Because they have to learn so much and memorize so much, and I'm like, how?
Keep it all in their brains. And then there's also split tracks that I would watch my cast members go through. And we had split tracks in Cats as well, which was just, I don't know how brains did not implode.
Yeah, Cats is
I was like, do you need anything from me? I'm only on stage for 20 minutes. What can I do?
Yeah.
Guitar. Like, what do you need?
What do you want me to do on stage for you? Yeah. Do you remember the day you made your Broadway debut? What it was like?
Oh yeah. I was so nervous. I mean, I knew what I was doing, but I was very nervous. I remember walking on stage and doing this choreography, which is just, it's so pedestrian and so authentic and so beautiful and so born out of the breath that I just remember not being able to sing my part because I was so happy and I could not believe that I was on a Broadway. It still makes me emotional thinking about it because everything I had ever worked for, I had accomplished. I mean, now I have different goals. Now I have more goals in my life. But like at that moment in time, I was on a Broadway stage doing what I love to do in a show that I loved with people that I loved. And that's all that mattered.
Yeah.
I was thinking like, what's inside? It was rough, but it was beautiful. And the support of everyone on and off stage, unparalleled.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah. The audience members are going, why is she crying? She okay?
Hopefully they didn't notice, but you know, who knows? The audience is quite receptive. I don't think that
they are.
I don't think we give them enough credit.
Especially for Waitress. There
are people that sing that show like 58 times.
Yeah. Yeah. They know it like
know it inside. They probably honestly knew it better than I did at the time.
What was your favorite thing about overall experience about working in Waitress while you got to be there?
Well, doing the Jenna material on stage for the first time was pretty impeccable. I remember singing She Used to Be Mine for the first time on stage. And it was empty, like no one was there. But it was unbelievable. Same with What Baking Can Do. But on stage 8 times a week, my favorite thing to do was Take It From an Old Man.
Ooh.
It's
okay.
beautiful. It's beautiful. So it's like my favorite choreography. It was my favorite harmonies. It was just pure love.
Yes. I really would love to see you back, like in the role of Jenna one day, and as a lead.
You and me both, my dear. You and me both. I still got that script, so I can be off book in 48 hours.
But okay, we could just put on a show in like my front yard.
Zoom show.
my front yard or something. I don't know. Yeah, Zoom.
Zoom. Waitress.
We'll arrange this. Perfect.
Great.
Date to be determined. We'll let everyone know. And then in 2019, you got the national tour of Cats, obviously.
I did.
Had you seen Cats previously on stage?
Only the movie, never on stage.
Ah.
Only the film. I grew up with the VHS.
But did you like know the music really well? Had you like sung the music or no? No? Never? Oh. Yeah.
Just that's all I knew. And obviously I knew memory, but never I didn't know like peaks and follicles or like, you know,
Yeah.
skimble or whatever. I mean, I grew up watching the movie, so I was familiar enough with it. So when we were in music rehearsals, I was like, oh, I recognize this. But never like sang all of, I still to this day don't remember the lyrics to most of the songs in that show. And I heard it 8 times a week for a year.
I mean, I feel like there's a lot of lyrics
There's
to
a lot of lyrics. A lot of lyrics.
Yeah. Because it's either singing or dancing
Mm-hmm.
the entire show.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
yep. So what was your audition process like for Cats? And when did you book it?
Cats was honestly, I went in the fall of 2018. It was actually a pretty typical audition experience. It was initial call. And honestly, I was like, there's no way that I was 25 at the time. I was like, there's no way that they're going to cast a 25-year-old in the role of Grizabella. There's no way. So honestly, I went in, of course, knowing my material backwards and forwards, and knew that I could sing it.
Yeah.
But I didn't really put much stock into like, oh, I'm going to book this. You know what I mean? And I honestly think that helped me. I think that gave me a little bit of an advantage because I was not trying to do anything in particular. I just did what I thought the role called for. I got a call back, and then I got another call back, worked with Andy, and then I think there was one more call back, and then I had a work session with Kristen Blodgett, just my heart and soul. I love that woman so much. And I found out that I booked the role. And then we started rehearsals in December.
And you were saying that you were only 25 at the time, and you didn't think that you would get the role as a 25-year-old?
I was like, they've always cast this this role older. They started going younger when they, revived it both on the West End and on Broadway. They went a little younger. So I figured maybe I have a chance, but I didn't really put much stock into it because I was by far like the youngest in for the role in the auditions.
Do you know if you were the youngest to ever play the part?
Someone looked it up, and I feel like Ruthie Henshaw was a little younger than me or the same age. I can't remember, but I think I was definitely in the youngest 3.
That's impressive.
Yeah, like at least professionally. I'm sure there's obviously been community theater productions, and, like regional. So I'm not sure, but on the professional caliber, I think I was like in the bottom 3 youngest, I guess.
Yeah, that's really impressive. That says a lot.
Cool. It was cool. Cats is such a funny show because it's such a taboo show. It doesn't really fit in any mold at all, and so I think that's why it's so successful. Especially with the refreshing that Andy did with the show and with some of the choreography. I think that was super helpful. Just like a nice new take on it. Because what's the point of doing a revival if you're telling the same story in the same way? What's the point?
Yeah, you gotta modernize it in some way. But
get topical.
Yeah. And it can be such a stunning show too. Yeah. Like the lights, everything. It was my first time seeing Cats last summer. Oh. And I was honestly stunned. I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did. But it was phenomenal. And how long in rehearsal process? Because the dancing is so impressive in that show. And I know it's got to be extremely difficult and take a lot of training to do all that dancing for all of those dancers. But how long did it take for everything to come together dance-wise? And
we were in the studio for a little less than 1 month. We had we started rehearsals on, I think it was December 8th, and we rehearsed 6 days a week, minus the holiday week of Christmas and New Year's, and then we left on January 11th, and we had 1 week of tech in Providence. and we performed for a week, and that was off to the races. I mean, luckily, not luckily, I mean, it was lucky because there were ways that our cast was able to solidify it more and more and more. But we would have rehearsals during tour. Once we started teaching our swings, all of their tracks and getting them put in, there was rehearsals all the time. I don't know how my castmates did it. Their bodies and spirits, I'm sure, were just completely exhausted for an entire year. I was very lucky. I didn't really have many rehearsals. I was very lucky. So I got to experience some cities, but the all in all rehearsal process in a studio before we left was a little less than 4 weeks.
Wow, that's impressive because it's so intricate and difficult.
Right. I mean, the audition that I heard from my castmates for them was like a boot camp situation. So they would go and it was like a 2-week long process. There was like the initial call where they learned some things, and they learned the material from the show. So they did know a bit of it through like when they came into rehearsals, where they were familiar. But you know, it's a very different thing learning at an audition and learning it for the mounting of a show.
Yeah, and some things might have maybe changed up between.
Absolutely. Or they might have been dancing a role that, you know, they are not in. Yeah. They might be in an entirely different role than what they learned.
So true. Yeah. Do you have a favorite scene in Cats besides, we'll get into Grizabella later, but do you have a favorite scene in Cats to watch?
I loved the ball. I loved standing off stage. I would stand off stage and watch the entire ball. And just watching my castmates do what they loved to do, and with such athleticism, with such grace, with such positivity and heart and soul and passion. It was so inspiring. It was so inspiring. I still think about it to this day.
Yeah, they were phenomenal.
So good.
And then you were obviously Grizabella, and Cats has been around since forever, since like 1980s.
Yeah.
So it's such an iconic role in musical theater that everyone loves if they're a musical theater fan. Mm-hmm. How did you go about making the role your own and like putting your own spin on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it goes back to the advice I gave earlier. I just like didn't compare myself to the women that had played it before me, because they all had very specific visions of who Grizabella was. And that role deserves my vision as well. Like if every woman who plays that role, it deserves their individual unique experience. And so I wasn't trying to sound like Elaine Page. I wasn't trying to sound like Mamie Paris. I wasn't trying to sound like Betty Buckley. I wasn't trying to sound like anyone. I was just, okay, this is the story that I want to tell. This is how I tell the story. And whatever comes out, comes out. Because sadness and longing and yearning might sound different show to show with the same actor performing. I always, you know, I feel like memory got into a groove, of course, after, you know, doing it for, I think I sang it over 450 times, but actually maybe more than that. I have it in my notebook.
Like marking it down every time.
Yeah, I seriously was like, I wonder how many times I sang that song. But it was never the same exact song every single night. It was always different because whatever had happened to me in that day, you bring that to the stage, or, you know, as long as you're doing something, doing a role, performing with integrity and authenticity, like it's going to kind of shift. It's going to change shape every time. And I think that's also the beauty of live theater as well.
Yes, for sure. And Memory is such a hard song to sing night after night. Like over 450 times at least. Like that's impressive. So how did you keep your voice healthy and like keep up the stamina to be able to sing it that well every night?
I would love to say that I had some like sort of trick, but honestly, sleep. I slept. I was very intentional about any extracurricular activities I would do, any extracurricular socializing I would do. I would be on vocal rest for a while, depending on like, because there were days that I would have to sing the song so many times because I will have had press that day or whatever, or we will have had a sound check, and then I'll have a 2-show day. Figuring out my body and how it reacted to the different cities that we went to was huge for me, allergy-wise. Lots of water, but I don't really have that much of a trick. I wish that there was like a fix-all tip, but I think just I learned how to listen to my body. It was the longest running show I've ever done. It was the longest amount of time that I had ever sustained a particular role and song. And you're right, it's very demanding. It's very demanding emotionally, vocally, from an acting standpoint. It's hard. It's really hard. You have a lot of offstage time, but like the time that you're on stage, it's 158 million %. And if you give anything less, you're not doing it justice.
Yeah, because of course it is like a role that's like been around.
You would be surprised. Like there were times that I would feel a little under the weather, and I would tell my friends, I'm like, I don't know, like, do I need to call out? Like, what do I ended up only calling out like 3 times, and then had like two stints away, like one weekend, and then I think it was under, I don't even remember. It doesn't matter how many times I didn't do the show, but I say that all because you would be amazed at what your instrument is capable of. When you think that your instrument's a goner, it's just beginning. Yeah. It is so resilient. It is so resilient. And if you have spent the time getting to know your instrument and training it, then you would be shocked at what it can withstand.
And you mentioned 2 show days. Mm-hmm. And you also have like 5 show weekends, basically, most weekends. So what's the hardest part about 2 show days back to back?
The in-between where you're tired and you realize that you have a second show, that's the hardest part.
You're like, oh, I'm not done today.
You have to recuperate as much as you can, but you can't recuperate too much, or else you're going to like walk the line of being too rested. And then it's hard to get that momentum back. Adrenaline is very useful in those circumstances.
Like the audience reaction from after the show, it's like, keep that with you.
Yeah, you just have to remember how grateful you are. It sounds so cliche and silly to say that gratitude really is the pulse of what we do as artists, but that's it. Yeah.
And then what was your favorite part about touring?
Oh, seeing the country. It was so cool. I love road trips, and I love traveling and experiencing new cities and people and coffee shops. So it was like a vacation, a paid vacation, really. I mean, it was very demanding, but luckily I was able to see a lot of every city that we went to. So I was in the minority of people who got to enjoy the traveling aspect of tour, but I did. I enjoyed it for, a lot of people. I was like, I'll enjoy it enough for you.
Oh, and I can't miss this question. How long, because makeup takes a while to get on. How long did it take to put on the Grizabella makeup and like get in costume for the show?
So we were called an hour prior to the show. So I would put my hair in wig prep. That would take 5 minutes. And then I would do my makeup, which would take around 30 to 40 minutes, depending on how leisurely I'm doing it, because I actually danced in the opening number as a different cat. So I didn't actually have the quintessential Grizabella makeup on yet. I had the base. And then after the opening number, I ran back to my dressing room, changed into Grizabella, added the scar, the teardrops, the lip smudge, and then changed wigs, obviously. And that took about, I think I had 11 minutes in that change, which was actually plenty of time, but it would take a while. It got faster as I did the show. I just got used to it. It was muscle memory at that point. But it was a good 30, 45 minutes of just makeup at the top of the show.
That's definitely longer than Alpha.
Yeah, well, and you're doing it yourself, too.
That's insane.
Like, you're putting all, like, every cast member did their own makeup every day.
Do they teach you before?
Yeah, we had tutorials.
Oh my gosh, that's insane, because y'all, wow.
I know.
Not everyone is naturally gifted to put makeup on their face.
It's tough. It was tough to learn. I am just through and through perfectionist. So I was like, oh my gosh, I have to redo this line. It's not perfect. I have to redo this like whisker pour. Ridiculous. But
it all looked amazing. It all came together so well.
I remember seeing everybody in full cat for the first time in rehearsal. I was like, wait, who are you? Who are you?
Do you remember me? Do I know you? Hey, and now you can do your own makeup and stuff for Halloween every year.
Yeah, I feel so confident in the cat makeup. I feel so confident.
Yes, I'm gonna need some help with makeup in the future.
I got you.
I'll be like, I know who to call. I know who to call. How are you alike and different from Grizabella?
I am like Grizabella in that she is extremely resilient. She's a tenacious character. And she doesn't give up easily. She's stubborn. I'm like her in that way. She's a little bit proud. I've learned how to be less proud as far as like ego goes. I feel like that's something that you learn more and more as you grow up. But I've also learned that she has just such a pure heart, and she wants to just be loved and loved and love other people, other cats, I guess. So I feel like they're the core and essence of who Grizabella is. I feel like I'm very much like her. I'm not like her in that I'm just now getting into my prime of life and she's exiting hers. I would like to become less proud like she, like I would like to stray from her a bit in that way. But yeah, I feel like she's fascinating. She's a fascinating character. So I'm glad that I'm a little more like her than different from her.
Did you have any routine to like get in the Grizabella mood?
No, I didn't really. I would be off stage and I would close my eyes and I would think about, what am I doing? What am I doing? When I get on stage, what do I need to accomplish? And that's what I would think about. I would enter the white room in my brain and I would go through with extreme precision every single movement, every single note, everything. Just with such attention to detail, and it naturally fell into place every time.
Now you're swinging jagged.
Yes.
When did you get that?
I booked that literally right before COVID. We were in rehearsals. We were learning all the choreography on stage, and our stage manager comes in and was like, so you can finish out the day, but Broadway's going to be taking a break. And I was like, no! No! I mean, we have to keep everybody safe, and obviously, like, it's what we needed to do. But yeah, I don't know if I'll be going back to the show. I don't know if they'll need me anymore. I don't know. It's all very
but hopefully,
crossing our fingers. I would love to be a part of that show. I really would.
Fingers, yeah.
Part just learning music and some choreography, you know.
You obviously have a lot of dance experience, which I haven't talked about much. So when did you start dancing, and what genre of dance is your favorite?
Oh my gosh, I started dancing right after Annie. So I started dancing in middle school. I didn't grow up dancing, and so the flexibility was not there right off the bat. So ballet was very hard for me. I just didn't have technique. I didn't have natural inclination. Ballet was hard. I ended up taking ballet forever and then got into pointe. So like I got there eventually. Jazz was like my first, jazz, hip hop, Those are like my first 3 genres. And then when I went to high school, I was a dance minor. And so I was a drama major, dance minor. I went to performing arts high school. But when I got to high school, I incorporated a lot more modern. My dance teachers were impeccable modern instructors. And that's where I found my love for like modern and contemporary dance. I felt like it was much more grounded than it was all about getting into the floor, and I connected with that so much more. My body type just naturally moved more in very angular ways. So I didn't look as gangly or awkward as when I did in ballet, you know? And yeah, then I got into tap. I loved tap. I still do. I'm decent. Hip hop it still takes a lot of courage for me to go to a hip hop class because it's not natural. It does not come naturally to me. I've got to work at something. Yeah. I've got to work at a combination, you know? But yeah, I've always loved dancing in any form. I've even dabbled in like pole dancing, which is super fun. Super athletic.
I've heard.
Super athletic. And it's not even like sexual. Like, honestly, it's not. It takes so much strength and agility.
Yeah.
So that was fun too. Who knows, if I ever get back into dance classes, maybe I'll do more of that and aerials or whatever. I'm very open. I'm just so open to learning so many things that I don't really pocket myself into a category.
Yeah. Yeah, why do that? Because then it takes away from like, it stops you from believing in yourself if you put yourself in a category.
Right. And I mean, like, obviously when I was dancing in the opening number in Cats, it was more technique oriented. So I would, when I would warm up or whatever, it would be all technique oriented. It would be bar. It would be like a ballet bar that I would do before the show. So I kind of have been lucky enough to kind of cater whatever I'm doing to whatever I'm actually working in at the time. And it's enough to be a refresher. And I don't necessarily believe in the jack of all trades, master of none mentality. I feel like I learn what I need to learn when I need to learn it.
Yep.
And then I practice everything else that I love to do on the side.
Love that. And also, I think that like you saying that you didn't get into dance really until middle school, it gives hope for people who are like, okay, I'm going to be on Broadway and sing, but like I want dance experience too, and I haven't done dance.
I mean, some of my impeccable cast members in Cats, like impeccable dancers, didn't even start until like high school. I kid you not. Like some of my favorite dancers on the show didn't start until high school.
The natural talent.
It's not about, to me, it is not about always, and this is obviously there are exceptions to the rule, but it is not about a duration. It's about a commitment to what you're learning. So like I could be in dance class from the time I was birthed out of the womb and not been dedicated or committed to it. And so therefore like walked my way through it and still not have ended up a good dancer.
Yes. And then you mentioned you might not go back to Jagged, or you don't know if you're going back to Jagged.
No idea.
But have you seen the show yet? And if so, what are you most looking for? What scene in Jagged are you most looking forward to performing in?
Unprodigal Daughter is so fun. All I Really Want is so fun. It's just so guttural. It's so guttural. And the big ensemble numbers just look so cool. They look so cool and intricate. There's so much going on at all times that those are probably the ones that I'm really looking forward to. I really also love Forgiven as well.
I've
heard pretty amazing.
Everything. I want to see it so bad.
Yeah.
Need Broadway to come back soon.
I know it's a beautiful show. It's a very special and unique show.
One of my friends has been a fan of it since way back when.
Yeah.
And she's been talking about how beautiful.
I mean, it's Alanis Morissette. How are you not?
Yes. And I've heard very emotional too. So like I expect going to see it and like sitting in the audience sobbing probably.
It's so different. The thing that is so amazing about it is that it does not impact every audience member the same. I mean, no show does, but I mean, like the things that in Jagged Little Pill specifically, the subject matter, people cling on to certain aspects of the story and give that more weight or whatever. So it's a very different experience depending on who you are.
Yes. And then going into more like a little more random questions. Who inspires you in the theater world?
Oh my gosh.
You can name more than one person.
I actually, this is gonna sound so weird, but I actually don't have like a role model.
Oh,
I grew up emulating people like Linda Eder, Idina, Celine. I grew up emulating people, and I appreciate so much of the work that is being done on Broadway and in the theater industry, but I have done so much personal work to get myself out of the insidious cycle of comparing myself to people that I draw inspiration from every single performer I see. Ensemble member number 28 in the back, like I am inspired by that person. That I don't really, I don't have a particular person in mind that that necessarily inspires me, because I feel like there's inspiration to be found in everyone that's doing the work. And there are some people that are quote unquote inspiring that actually are not.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, that sounds so catty and awful, but like it is, if you really look at it, it's true.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Sure. And then what's on your current Broadway bucket list? You mentioned that Alpha isn't a role that's on your bucket list anymore, which is so funny because like the first time I dream cast people as Alphaba.
Yeah.
So maybe I did when I saw him.
I will gladly play that role. I would be so blessed to play that role. And I would not say no to it. I'm just saying that there are other roles that I would love to play more. Like I would love to be Eurydice in Hadestown.
Ooh.
I would love to be in Six. Jane Seymour probably.
Yes.
My track. Oh my gosh, what else is on Broadway? Help.
Some Heart of Stone. I would love to hear you sing that.
What else is on Broadway?
I'm
awful. See, I'm awful.
on Broadway.
Right, it's hard. I mean,
Broadway has been gone for so long that it's
I feel like my ultimate,
like nothing right now is on Broadway, but
true. I feel like my ultimate dream role it hasn't been written yet. I know that sounds crazy. I know that sounds so crazy, but I don't think it's been written yet.
It's something you're gonna originate.
That is my goal in life, is to originate a role. That's my goal.
Yeah. It's something you're gonna originate.
I feel like every actor, that's their like major goal. I mean, listen, I would love to do Sunday in the Park with George. I would love to play Dot. I would love to like, what else is there? It's so hard for me to, I would also love to do plays. Like, I don't want to be bound just simply to music. My roots are in Shakespeare, like my acting roots. I was an apprentice in Oklahoma at a classical theater company for like 2 years.
Oh, so you have some experience in plays.
Yeah, I love it.
Like straight acting.
Yeah, I would love an opportunity to do that.
And you've also, would you do Les Mis? Because I noticed that on your resume again. Would you play?
I mean, if I don't look too old to play Eponine again, I would love to, but I feel like I would be more geared towards the Fontaine track these days.
Yeah, I could see that. I dreamed a dream.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? I think it all just depends on who they cast.
And like Cosette Maris.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I would love to see you in that. That tour was amazing. And then if you could revive any Broadway show, what would it be?
The Wild Party by Andrew Lippa.
Oh.
I would love to play Queenie. I would love to play Queenie.
You're like, goal.
Such that's your homework after this. Listen to the Wild Party Band Julepa. It's so good.
I'm gonna do that.
So grungy and dirty and just amazing. It's amazing.
I feel like I've heard a lot about it, but
I'm probably gonna listen to that today too.
I'll do the homework. And
then you won't regret it.
Yes. And then what's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you on stage in a show?
I have two. So it wasn't really funny.
Perfect.
I was mortified. It was in Waitress. And you saw Waitress, right?
Yes.
Choosing of pie, when we all come out with pie and she says, ooh, I want wild, wild berry pie.
Yeah.
A little wild, wild berry pie. So I was the wild, wild berry pie. And when beautiful Stephanie Torrance, freaking amazing in that role. I presented the pie, and it's on a magnet. And so when she took it, I moved my hand too fast. We just didn't sync up for some reason, and the pie went flying into the audience. I was so mortified. I felt horrible. She was such an amazing sport about it. She was incredible, because I was in the back booth, like crying. I was crying on a Broadway stage because I felt like I had ruined the show.
Oh my God.
So there was that. And then there was a time we were in McAllen, Texas, and with cats. And after Memory, so listen, I don't need applause. I really don't. But when you're used to hearing it after Memory for months and months, you finish, look, a new day has begun. And nothing happens. I was like, okay, I'm gonna walk now. And I'm like, bring it on. And I was literally, so we have the receiving line after that. I am crying because I'm holding back my laughter. And I'm seeing all of my cast members, and we're like, what just happened? What just occurred? Like, what just happened? Everybody's laughing. Thank God the music is loud. And then it was so funny. I mean, there were obviously technical difficulties in Cats where, like, the tire wouldn't work, or, like, I wouldn't fly or whatever, but, like, that was the funny moment. I still, like...
Didn't know what to do?
It felt like a blip in the universe. One of my cast members was like, I really think that there was a blip in the universe.
Yeah.
She swears by it. It was so funny. Oh my goodness. We still laugh about it a year later. Still laugh about it.
Was it like some like business spot at the theater that night?
No, it was a full house. It was a full, I think that they were so I think they were so in it that they just didn't know what to do.
Maybe
my dance captain was like, Keri, I think that they were just so tuned into everything that it didn't even occur to them to applaud. Maybe
it's like the moment between As Long As You're Mine and Wicked and the end of that scene.
Yeah, maybe.
People don't know whether to applaud or not because the scene hasn't technically ended.
All I know is it was so freaking funny. It was so funny.
That's so weird. Live theater is just like, it's why it's so special, because every night stuff like that could happen, and it's different.
It was so funny. I need to like call people about that today.
Yes.
About it again.
Well then, going off that, what audiences in a city do you think were the best audiences in the city? No pressure.
Kennedy Center was a very responsive city in Washington, D.C. That was, I mean, not only was it just an amazing theater to perform in, so beautiful, but they were very responsive. there wasn't like a particular city that was just above, like hands up, just an incredible responsive audience. I think every city had those audiences. Like there would be mid-song applause, there would be standing ovations. It was not specific to one city, but I do remember in Kennedy Center, we were there for 3 weeks in DC, so we had a good array of audiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have to ask this question because Cats was just recently released as a movie in theaters again. So if you could pick any movie or musical to make into a movie, what would it be?
Oh. Oh, I feel like Dogfight would be great. As a
Ooh.
film, I feel like that is a very cinematic, it lends itself cinematically very well.
Yes.
Also The Wild Party. I feel like that would be.
You're like, have to bring that. Yes.
Yeah. Now that I'm on the Wild Party train, it's really hard for me to get off. Like, make it into a movie. Yeah, it would have to be done very well. Like, we can't have another Cats situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can't have a Cats situation. Those are the ones that immediately come to mind.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say anything about the Cats, about like the reviews it got.
Listen,
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it?
I haven't watched it. Nope.
Listen, it's an experience. It's not the same show, which is, fine. Yeah. It's really fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
Message me whenever you watch it. Watch it and then message me. Let me know your thoughts.
See, I don't know. I'm scared because I watched like clips online.
It's not going to ruin the show for you. It's different enough from the musical that it's not going to ruin it for you. I still love Cats and I hated the movie.
Did you like the Les Mis movie?
I liked aspects of the Les Mis movie, but no, I didn't.
Okay.
I tend to not be a fan of movie musicals in general.
Yeah, it's hit or miss. It's very hit or miss.
Very hit or miss. I'm excited to see West Side Story, though.
Yes.
I'm very excited to see that.
I think it has good casting and the dancing looks good. And In the Heights is good.
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely In the Heights is going to be impactful. That was one of the first Broadway shows I saw.
Really?
American Idiot was my first. I saw, which was so good. I loved it. I loved American Idiot. Memphis, In the Heights, Big Fish. It was all on the same trip. Not Big Fish was a different trip. Sorry. Memphis, In the Heights, Mary Poppins.
Oh, Mary.
What else did we see? Those are the ones I can remember.
All good shows, though.
All great shows. All great shows.
Was that before you moved to New York, or was that?
That was when I was in high school.
So it was like, okay, I have to live here someday.
Yes. Oh, I always knew I was going to live in New York once I started theater. I just hadn't been to New York until I was in high school, like New York City, that I could actually remember. So it was a really special trip.
What's it like, before I get into the last questions, what's it like being a like small town Oklahoma girl in a huge city like New York City?
I feel like I've retained a lot of my like Southern hospitality, Southern kindness, because I get made fun of all the time. All of my friends, like, if we get out of an Uber, I'm like, thank you so much. Like, I stay safe. Have a good night. I just overdo it, but it's because I genuinely mean it. Like, I genuinely want you to get home safe at the end of your night. Like, so it's like I was with a friend recently, and we like walked by people or whatever and had a small conversation. And I was like, hey, like, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Like, I hope you have a great evening. Enjoy the nice weather, and we walk away. And he was like, it's like, why didn't you just like propose to them? Why didn't you just give them your phone number, or like tell them that you love them, or like that you want to be the godfather of their children, or it's like, it's just what we do. It's what we do in the South.
Yeah. Yep. true, because I'm from Texas, so
Yeah, and it's still, like, New York still, like, even in some of the craziest times where I just want to leave New York, it still retains its magic for me. There's still a lot of magic here. I've been here for over 5 years now.
it's one of the I wouldn't say it's like there's parts of it that are gorgeous and parts of it that aren't, but it's definitely one of the most magical
Like any
things.
city.
Definitely one of the most magical.
Mm-hmm.
And then, do you have any hidden talents or fun facts about yourself?
This is surprising to a lot of people, but I used to, and still would love to, choreograph fight sequences. I did, when I was an apprentice, I did a lot of the the stage combat. I choreographed it. Tough and like with weaponry. One of the worst cuts I've ever had in my life was when I was getting the burrs off of a long blade.
Ooh, that's fun.
Off of a broadsword when we were doing Macbeth.
That's definitely an interesting fact.
Fun. It's so fun to do because like you can do anything. As long as you're not actually injuring your scene partner, you can do anything you want.
And then how do you work on self-confidence in this industry? Because it's such a tough industry, and I feel like you kind of addressed it earlier, but.
Yeah, I feel like my confidence comes from learning from other people. I feel like my confidence and what I like, because I am very aware that there's only one me. Like there might be a bunch of other redheaded belters in the industry, but there's only one me. And I see it in my peers that like they bring something to their role that only they can bring. If I were to go into a role that I've been watching them perform for months and months, I still wouldn't play it the same way that they did because we don't have the same experience. So I derive my confidence from knowing that, and also knowing that I'm not letting my training ever become stagnant. I'm always trying to learn from different people, always trying to have conversations with people in and out of the industry, stretching myself in ways that I can stretch myself, figuring out what it's like to write something yourself. Whether it be good or bad, like it doesn't matter. You've written something yourself and you have a greater appreciation for people who do that for a living. So yeah, my confidence comes from learning.
Yes. Constantly learning and constantly growing, all of us are.
Yeah.
For sure. It's something that like I feel like we're forgetting that like we're not all top tier right now.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's like everybody that does live theater is doing it for a very specific reason. And so therefore that brings, and doing it with very different life experiences. And so that brings something incredibly unique too. Like you're never going to not be unique as long as you allow yourself to be.
Yep.
You're not like trying to be somebody else, and you're being yourself and authentic and, honest, then you're never going to not be unique.
And speaking of live theater, this is kind of a depressing question, but then I have a better question afterwards. Okay. What do you think live theater is going to be like when it is able to safely return? Because it is like,
I think it's going to be more magical than ever. I think that there's going to be incredible new works that come to the surface. I think the hunger is going to be there again. In forcing us to stop doing what we have always been doing, this pandemic has taught us how much we love doing what we are doing or how much we don't love it.
Yeah.
Like there are going to be people that come out of this that are like, you know what, I've lived 6-7 months, almost a year without doing theater and I'm okay. Maybe I want to do something else. Which to each their own. Different strokes for different folks. But like, I feel like we're never going to feel the same way about theater again, as long as we allow ourselves to remember this and remember what it feels like and how grateful we are to be in a theater again.
Yes. And do you think virtual theater will stick around after live theater can come back? Because it's such a big thing now.
Yeah, maybe it will. And I feel like there are things on virtual theater that you can't really do in live theater, so that's fun too.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like the doors have been cracked and they've been opened, and I don't think that they're ever going to fully shut again. At least that's my hope. That's my hope.
And then what do you think makes theater such a special part of the entertainment industry? Because, like, there's really nothing like theater in the entertainment industry. Movies and TV, you're watching on a screen.
I think that you, as an artist in live theater, you can consistently challenge yourself and others. And it forces you to there's nothing like being on stage and looking into an audience that you can't see because like the lights are so bright or whatever. And it's the only time that you feel truly, and me, I can only speak for myself. It's the only time that I feel truly at one with my passion and my love. And yeah. It's hard sometimes because I get so lost in like what it feels like to be on stage or what it feels like to create, and it's hard. My words can't really keep up, or there's not really words that can express it.
Describe it, yeah.
It's
so special. Yeah. It's such a special medium and a special craft.
And it's different every single show. Like challenging your scene partners, actually forcing them to listen to you. Like I'm not condoning changing blocking or anything, but like if your scene partner is zoning out, make them pay attention. You've got to do something to make them pay attention again.
Yeah.
The coolest things are born out of those moments. Now, don't be like a butthead and like change a show, but
yeah,
what you got to do safely.
Don't change something that works.
Right.
Yeah. And then lastly, speaking on like the craft of theater and arts and stuff, have you been working on anything in quarantine that you'd like to promote?
Yeah, I mean, I just wrote a dance track. Weirdly enough, I wrote a dance track with a friend of mine. It'll be probably released on his Spotify soon.
Ooh.
I can't really promote it yet because there's not really anything to promote. We've not solidified things, but it'll definitely be on social media. And I'm working on an album. I'm working on like a visual, kind of like a solo Tiny Desk concert, but it's not a tiny desk. It's similar. It's like an acoustic moment. Yeah, just several little things in the works that are very new for me and very vulnerable and very scary, but worth it. Will be very worth it. Yeah.
I was gonna say, is there anything that's come out of quarantine that's like really shocked you? Like, have you taken up anything that you never thought that you would do before in your life?
Writing a dance track. I was like, if I'm gonna write music, it's gonna be like this. I put myself in this box, right? Like we always do. I was like, it's gonna be this like very acoustic, like feel of like honesty, and the lyrics are like evocative or whatever. And then the dance track is all of those things actually, but I'm very excited about it. But it's a genre I never thought that I would dabble in. But I'm very, very happy with it. Very proud, very lucky. All of the above.
Yes, I'm excited.
Yeah,
so you put it up in the universe.
Yes.
I'll put a link to it in the description of this whenever it comes out.
You're the best. You're the best.
Of course. And then where to keep up with what you're doing and to find your work, where can people follow you on social media?
I'm on Instagram at krfuller13. I've been very lackadaisical in posting lately. Social media has been a very, very difficult thing for me to cope with as of late. So I've been kind of staying off. But as soon as I have things to share, I absolutely will share them there.
Fantastic. Yeah. So happy. And thank you for talking to me on this today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a joy. It was such a joy to hear.
Of course. I'm glad you could come on and talk with me about it because, I mean, honestly, seeing someone like you perform last year in Cats made me really love, like, I got to hear songs that I've been hearing since like Broadway Kids albums, and just seeing that come to life on stage and seeing that cast perform was an amazing moment in my life.
And that's why we do what we do. So
yeah. Thanks for watching this episode of Backstage with Becca B. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Becca B Talks TV. Or for more exclusive content from this interview and more, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Backstage with Becca B. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video, or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give me a 5-star rating. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!